spell this match because that would be sweet.
Yeah, that would be sweet. The Tin Fins deck actually has a fair number of sorceries that are worth countering. So Warping Will is, paying 2 mana isn't that great, but Gerry has a lot of cards that lands that tap for 2 mana, so it's not going to be that bad. But either way, both of these decks are decks that I would assume most people are unfamiliar with. The colorless Eldrazi deck, it's similar to the old mono artifact deck where it's going to have certain things like Chalice of the Void or Thorn of Amethyst that are going to slow its opponent down or lock them out of the game. And then it's coming in with a bunch of fat Eldrazi, similar to the modern version that people have been seeing with Eldrazi Mimic, Endless One, Thought-Knot Seer, Reality Smasher, maybe a Matter Shaper to, bridge in between those. And then the Tin Fins deck, it's basically going to be looking to get a lot of mana on turn 1, maybe turn 2, maybe turn 3, basically whenever it wants, because it's going to be mostly in the form of Dark Ritual, so it's going to have a burst of mana, and it's going to be looking to entomb, Grizzlebrand, or get into its graveyard some other way, reanimate it with Goryo's Vengeance
or Shallow Grave.
And then he can continually draw cards with Grizzlebrand and use Children of Corliss to gain the life back. And
win with a Tendrils of Agony.
Right.
Actually, Shawn's list is real sweet. He has Monastery Mentor in his sideboard.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
So Shawn's just going to lead off with an Underground Sea and pass the turn. Gerry does have City of Traders and a Chalice of the Void, X=1. This is going to be big trouble for Shawn.
This could just be a game. I don't know if Shawn can really do much.
Yeah, this is going to be rough.
Shuts off a lot of his cards. I mean, he's playing all the blue cantrips, even Gataxian Probe. He's got cards like Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize, and Cabal Therapy. So Chalice on 1 is big game. And this is one of the advantages of playing the colorless Eldrazi deck. You can see that Gerry valued this Chalice on turn 1 so much that he was willing to play City of Traders on turn 1 to get it out early, even though he knows that he'll be sacrificing his City of Traders pretty quickly.
So Gerry is just going to go ahead and use that City of Traders for mana, play a Cavernous Souls, which I assume is going to name Eldrazi, cast a Matter Reshaper, and pass the turn back to Shawn. Now, he doesn't really have a whole lot of stuff that he can do with that Chalice on 1, and it doesn't look like he has any ways in the main deck to actually get rid of it.
Yeah, depending on what Shawn wants to do here, we may actually see him concede pretty quickly. I don't know if there's any good way for him to win through this Chalice, and he may want to conceal what deck he's playing. Tin Fins is a pretty unusual deck. As it is now, Shawn could concede, and Gerry wouldn't know if he's up against Reanimator, up against Sultai Delver.
Or Storm.
Yep, that would be another one.
The problem is, Chalice is good against all of those decks.
Right.
So Shawn did find another land there with a Flooded Strand that passed back to Gerry. I imagine he's going to make Gerry actually kill him just to get some more information about what is in Gerry's deck. But it looks like we might see a Reality Smasher come down this turn, and that paired with the Matter Reshaper is going to end this game fairly quickly.
Yeah, I have to imagine that Gerry's going to have an easy time with this game, and we're going to be going to the post-board games pretty soon. Chalice of the Void is really one of the big reasons that you would want to play this colorless Eldrazi deck. The threats in the Eldrazi deck are good, but they're not great. Chalice of the Void on turn 1 is a great play in Legacy. You're not always going to have it every hand. You only get to play 4 Chalice of the Void, and you only have so many lands that will produce 2 mana on turn 1. But Chalice of the Void is a really powerful play on turn 1. Thorn of Amethyst is similar, not quite as powerful, but still quite good.
So it looks like Gerry's just going to play a Crocus for his turn, put that Thorn of Amethyst onto the battlefield, pass it back to Shawn, who's going to discard a Gristlebrand and pass. Now we're going to see a Reality Smasher is going to come down and enter the red zone. Now Shawn is going to be able to put this Gristlebrand onto the battlefield if he has, another land and something like Shallow Grave or Goryo's Vengeance. But I don't really know what that's going to do, and he's just going to go ahead and scoop it up. So unfortunately for Shawn French and his Tin Fins combo deck, Gerry Thompson and his colorless Eldrazi deck is going to take game 1 on the back of a turn 1 Chalice of the Void for 1. Did some very, very heavy lifting there.
Yeah, and that was a big win for Gerry. Gerry doesn't have much interaction for the Tin Fins deck pre-board. That Chalice for 1 is one of the only things Gerry can do to really slow Shawn down. And Shawn has some really explosive draws that can win as early as turn 1. So I think Gerry kind of dodged a bullet there in game 1, and now that we're going to the post-board games, Gerry has some pretty good tools to bring for the matchup.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboards here and see what options we have. Now, Shawn French does have 4 Monastery Mentor, 3 Dark Confidant, kind of a transformational sideboard there, with 2 Chain of Vapor, 2 Swords to Plowshares, 2 copies of Serenity, and then 2 Pithy Needles. So how do you think Shawn French is going to sideboard here?
So I have to imagine that the Monastery Mentor and the Dark Confidant are for matchups where he knows he's going to face a lot of disruption. I have to imagine that he thinks he's not actually going to face that much disruption from Gerry. So I think that Shawn is probably going to stick to his main game plan and basically just try to goldfish for wins and play as interactive as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shawn doesn't actually board anything out. If he doesn't board anything out, he'll probably act like he's sideboarding anyway, but I have to imagine that he's, not actually going to bring these cards in.
Yeah, if anything, I can imagine maybe Serenity,
maybe
just as an answer to Chalice of the Void,
yeah,
and Thorn of Amethyst. For Gerry, we've got 3 copies of Warping Whale, 1 Dismember, 2 Umezawa's Jite, 2 Pithy Needle, 2 Allah's Dust, 3 Fairy Macabre, and 2 Sphere of Resistance. So I imagine those Fairy Macabre are going to hop right into his deck.
Those are going to be the first things to bring in.
What else do you think he's bringing in?
So Gerry has a couple cards that could be quite good. The extra Warping Whales could be something that he could look into just as a way to counter another sorcery. Shawn has quite a few of them. The Pithing Needle is also a good way to shut off Griselbrand. You can play Pithing Needle, name Griselbrand, and you're not going to be able to use the draw 7 off of Griselbrand, which can be quite devastating for the Tin Fins deck. The Fairy Macabre is, obviously going to be one of the best sideboard cards because you can just wait for Shawn to reanimate Griselbrand and then just Fairy Macabre in response. And then Sphere of Resistance can also be pretty useful because Shawn is going to be casting a lot of spells, especially the turns where he's actually comboing off, and Sphere of Resistance can make that pretty difficult.
I agree with that. I think, again, Fairy Macabre and Sphere are going to be very good here for Gerry. That Chalice is backbreaking. Now, we saw Chalice win a game 1 very easily earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And then
lose a game.
And then Jeff just ended up getting crushed with his Chalices. So while Shawn and Gerry end up finishing their sideboarding, let's go ahead and take a quick second and talk about the Creature Collection.
Oh, sick. I love these.
Yeah, so StarCityGames.com, our Creature Collection available now. We've got Magus of the Moo, and this is available for the rest of this month, so February. Make sure you get to an event so you can get these, but we do still have playmat sleeves and player bundles available. You can find more information, go to StarCityGames.com/Creature Collection. But starting next month in March, we're going to have Grim Llamamancer.
Which we've named Anna, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Grim Llamamancer is the next one.
Yeah, and all of these are really great. These are, one of the things that I really like about the Star City events is there's just all this cool stuff that you can get, all this cool Star City swag.
Yeah, so that's going to be available in March, and then after Grim Llamamancer, we have a new one that's coming up here, and this is going to be our Slobberin Mile Driver. So we have to come up with a name for this.
Just slobbering for miles.
So I wonder if is the guy's name Miles?
I think the dog is Miles.
I don't know. Mile Driver.
We'll have to. We'll have to check with our scientists at the Star City Lab.
So again, go to StarCityGames.com/game night. Let's jump back to the match. I believe they're ready. So Shawn French is on the play, leading off with Underground Seeds. Going to pass to Gerry, who does have a Mox Diamond.
If this is a Thorn of Amethyst or another Chalice, pretty good.
Nope, just a Pithing Needle.
I mean, that's still pretty good. You name Griselbrand, and what does Shawn do? He either has to have boarded in the Chain of Vapor to take care of it, or he's kind of, wow.
So not only does he have a Pithing Needle naming Griselbrand, but he also has City of Traders. Chalice of the Void is going to be X = 1. Now, it looks like Shawn does have a copy of Serenity in his hand, which is going to be big game and kill all of these artifacts that are on the battlefield. But he does need to find white mana so that he can cast it.
Yeah, if he doesn't, Gerry has a stranglehold on this game. I mean, Gerry's basically playing the role of, Royce Gracie or one of those other Brazilian grapplers from MMA where he just gets you on the ground and locks you out of everything. You try to move and he just tightens more.
Oh, so did Shawn not have a second land? It's like with the brainstorm and he missed, he's just going to pass it back to Gerry. Let's see if Gerry has a threat. All he needs is a threat to deploy here. So we've got 2 mana from the ancient, from the City of Traders.
Smasher.
And ooh, this is about to smash.
Yeah.
So we've got Ancient Tomb, going to knock Gerry down to 18. He's going to cast a Reality Smasher and attack Shawn French. Looks like he did find an Underground Sea, but that's not going to do much against this Reality Smasher.
So Shawn knows the top card of his deck, and he's going to get knocked to 10. So he's going to have basically the 2 unknown cards on the top of his deck are going to need to be ones that can win in the game. And so he may actually just be dead next turn.
Oh, and there's an ancient or a wasteland for Gerry. So he's going to take 2 damage down to 16. He's going to play that Eldrazi Mimic, attack Shawn down to 10. He's going to wasteland the Underground Sea. Make sure it's to target the 4 and black border one.
Yeah, obviously.
Just a
is
bunch
that all
of
1 mana spells?
Yep, just all 1 mana spells.
Well, then the Serenity, but yeah. So that was a game where we got to see the Eldrazi deck at its best. I don't know how different this build is from the one we saw a little earlier against the Burn deck, but when Todd Stevens was playing, we kind of got to see one of the worst draws, but Gerry just showed us some of the best draws. So I kind of like that, these 2 matches were bookended with each other. You get to see the best and the worst.
Yeah, so we see Chalice of the Void is a powerful Magic card.
Oh, yeah.
That can completely lock some decks out. And I've, talked about in, multitudes of my articles, I've played